Hi boys and girls, it's Show back with another video. Today we're going to look at game week 8 in the Premier League and how maybe you want to think about sorting your fancy Premier League teams out with some suggestions there and predictions of those results and who will do well in those games. So without further ado, let's crack on with this. We've got the full fixture list for this game week here. Watford v Liverpool to begin, early kick-off at 12:30. Watford obviously recently sacked Xisco, Ranieri obviously rumoured to be coming in, and then we have Liverpool, who top of the league, and they very much are the standout team so far in terms of form. I don't see where the trend would suggest that Watford could get a result here, but last time that obviously Liverpool did have a massive unbeaten run, Watford were the team that ended it at Vicarage Road. I think Henderson was missing that game, some key players, and Ismail Assar really tore it up. Whether that will happen again, very doubtful, I would suggest. But players to think about in this one though. Alexander-Arnold may be back fit for this game. He's about 75% chance of playing from his groin injury. Now he's hit the international break to rest, and I very much think that Klopp would be keeping his cards close to his chest. So I do think that Alexander-Arnold might actually play. So obviously, if considering who to bring in, and you've decided to take him out from one of the game weeks before, this might be the time to get him back in. Jota is the other one that I wanted to mention. I think a lot of people think, because he's a cheaper option. If we look at Liverpool themselves here, I'm just gonna move myself up here so you can see this. Yeah, Jota at 7.6. So he's only gone up by 0.1. So he's a cheaper option that when you're trying to manipulate the pricier players, and maybe you've gone for a Lukaku or Ronaldo, for example, a Bruno, and you've not got Salah in as your Liverpool player. There may be game weeks where you could actually double up with a Liverpool player, and a game against Watford with no manager, that might be a suggestion. But Jota obviously coming back off a bit of a niggle on the international break, a 75% chance of playing. He's the type of player that could be rested for Firmino down here. This is the kind of game where you could easily rotate in and out there. So I could see him easily coming off the bench, Jota, even if he is fit. So just to kind of give a bit of insight there, is that if you do have him, is a risk whether you start him or whether obviously you're thinking about putting him in. From a Watford perspective, like I say, it's a bit like same with Newcastle, like I was mentioning with Ismail Assar and Sam Maximan. They're kind of like the two key players from those teams. If you're going to get one player in, it's best that you go with those if you can afford them, because I've experienced it with Dennis at the moment. I took a gamble, took a punt on that, and it didn't pay off. His value's not really going to drop because it's not that high anyway. That's the beauty of it. You kind of take those punts when they've got easier fixture lists, because obviously that the value could increase. But yeah, if you're being honest with yourself, the key players that you're going to have from any of those kind of lower teams that sort of struggle across the board in terms of the quality throughout their squad, you got to go for the star player at all times. Moving on, we have Aston Villa versus Wolves. Now, Wolves, like I said, for the large part, they've played very well this season. They had a few 1-0 losses, and they're now starting to pick it up, and Jimenez seems to be hitting form. Now, I did a video, I think it was last week, where I picked Jimenez, and he ended up getting 2 assists. And I told people to pick Andros Townsend as well, and he scored against United, and he scored in the week before when I suggested to get him. So yeah, very much this is a gold mine for people playing Fantasy Premier League, so you should very much listen carefully. With this one, I think Jimenez is really not a bad shout. If we go back on the Fantasy Premier League here, we have Wolves. Yeah, and if we look over here, Jimenez, he's only a 7.5. You know, if you think that Ings was, like, for example, an 8, I just think for a 7.5, when, yes, they're a team that I guess struggles to create lots of chances, or when they do, maybe they look that efficient. Interesting thing, obviously, as well as Hwang, who they picked up from RB Leipzig as well. He scored twice in the game that Jimenez got 2 assists last week. Now, he's only a 5.6. Now, on the back of those 2 goals that he scored, I very much expect that, you know, he will be one of the first names on the team sheet. So I obviously went with Jimenez as a more sort of consistent player who we know has done it in the Premier League, and I felt like it was the right time. And we've seen from that game as well, the previous fixture, that you know, that Jimenez he's got very much an all-round game, so he's going to get the odd assist as well, and be that creative force up front. Whereas obviously Hwang very much going to be the poacher who really gets on the end of things, maybe a bit busy, but I expect him to be the one on the end of lots of chances. But at 5.6, even with just a 0.1 increase, he's very much a steal. And if you look at the fixture list coming up here, certainly in the next 2, Villa, very much a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team. Leeds away, they've struggled at the start of the season. It is something to think about. It's not the easiest fixture list, but it's not a bad one. And the way Wolves have been playing this season, they seem to be now hitting their stride in terms of confidence. So yeah, watch the space for that. He might be a pick for you. Yeah, going back to the fixture list here, Villa, don't give up on Ings now if you've still got him. This is a game where he very much could do something. I think, you know, Ings is due a goal. He's gone through a bit of a spell here. If we just go back on the Fantasy Premier League, bring him up so we can just take a quick look at some of his stats. Yeah, so looking at here against Spurs, yeah, 6 points actually. So there you go. Hold on. Apologies, 2 points. I was looking in the wrong area there. So yeah, 2 points is what I think. A bit of a barren spell here. 0-0-0. He's not scored in his last. So look at goals scored. He's not scored in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last 5 games. So he's very much due a goal. So if you've somehow persisted with him, then now's not really the time to get rid of him, because I think very much home against Wolves after an international break, which he's not been a part of, he's going to be fresh. I think, you know, Villa, if you look at throughout their squad, I mean, they've got McGinn, Mings has been on away on international duty, probably Emiliano Martinez as well, I'd imagine, with Argentina. But, you know, the majority of their players, Matty Cash, Matty Target, Konsa, you know, maybe Douglas Luiz. I'm not sure if he goes away with Brazil, but yeah, they're not sort of covered with players that have been on international duty. I think the majority of them are coming back fresh, fit, ready to go, and yeah, they're at home. You know, we all know how fans love to get back watching the Premier League rather than, you know, the kind of international break, which is very much a distraction. So I do think that, you know, that's a good choice to stick with Ings in this game. But yeah, back to the fixture list. Obviously, just very quickly cover my predictions over those last 2 fixtures. Watford v Liverpool. I very much think Liverpool will win. Watford might give them a game, but, you know, I very much think that this will be a 2-0 Liverpool win. Aston Villa Wolves. This game could go either way. I'm going to suggest, just for the sake of it, that they're going to cancel each other out, but it'd be a 1-1 draw. And my pick for the goals would be a combination of either Ings, Jimenez or Hwang to get the goals there. Leicester v Man United. I've predicted United winning every single game week, and it's been an absolute embarrassment, and I'm kind of a bit done with that. I mean, the international break has come at the right time for us. I think we've very much been struggling, but I don't think those struggles are behind us because of, like we always mention, that hole in midfield. And you're coming up against a Leicester side that have been struggling. But, you know, if you look at their midfield of Tielemans and Ndidi, it is much better than Manchester United's midfield. So I expect there to be phases of play where you're at a loss about what's going on in the middle of the park in this game. So watch the space with that, because, like I say, United defenders not an option. The Luke Shaw decision early on, disaster. Get rid of Luke Shaw if you've got him in your team. I think I've got him on the bench here because his value's dropped and I'm struggling to get rid of him at the moment. It's just not really worth having him in. No point having a United defender at all. Leicester, though, very much in the same boat. I think no point having any Leicester defenders as well. They've had injury troubles, they've been inconsistent, they do leak goals. But like I mentioned before about sort of their midfield, there's some bite to it, there's some points getters there. So, it's very much Vardy versus Bruno here. And I think you can't go wrong with either, but I could very much see this being a bit of a neither team wants to open up and concede ground. I think both teams will probably be pretty negative going into this game. So I could easily see this being a 0-0 draw, max a 1-1, something like that. So I'm not expecting lots of goals. So points getters here. I want to go 1-1 because I would be contradicting myself to say that there's going to be a 0-0 here and defenders are going to score points. So 1-1, bit of a random goal scorer. So my advice is just avoid this game. It's not a game really for deciding who's going to do well in it. If you've got Vardy, no reason to take him out in this sort of position. We look at his fixture list coming up as well. If we look at Leicester, United, and then it eases up a bit here, so just no point. Stick with him. Like I say, a 1-1 draw could easily be Vardy that scores the goal. So don't really move any of your players, but if you've got a United defender, get rid. Moving on to Man City versus Burnley. I expect this to be a Man City victory. Burnley notoriously do terribly at the Etihad. If you look at the statistics going through the seasons, they're awful and they get battered. Now, I said this about Southampton as well early on in the season. Southampton somehow pulled off a result, and maybe this is the year for them sort of changing their fortunes at the Etihad. Some of the City players obviously been away on international duty. Grealish, Foden, Walker, Gundogan, still sort of fitness questions there. The City team, they've done well again in the big games. I think they've tactically got themselves sort of absolutely set up spot on. I think they'll probably take their eye off the ball a bit more in these games, but I think obviously Burnley's form suggests that this will be nothing more than I'd be a bit kinder to them and suggest a 2-0 Man City win because of that. And if you look at Man City's fixture list, this is the time to get your Man City players in. If we just take a quick look, we'll just go on a random player. Like I said, Phil Foden, for example, at 7.9. Burnley at home, Brighton away. That's a tough fixture, but both attacking units could see goals there. Crystal Palace at home, bit of a good run here. So I think it's a good time. It's a good time to get your City players in. Maybe a City defender as well. We know how many clean sheets they've got, and it's one of my regrets early on is that I've not had a City defender through that period, laughably. Very much. If we're looking at their defenders here, if I just move myself. If we look at some of the defenders here, you very much think that Walker, and I've picked him, 5.5, very much expect him to start, especially while sort of Zinchenko's finding his fitness here, you see. So Cancelo's obviously going to play off the left. Walker, not going to be challenged for the right back position. 5.5, already on 27 points. If you can afford Cancelo for this run, definitely an option. No point in sort of hesitating on that because he is racking up the points early on. So Walker maybe for a bit of a value increase at 5.5. Not going to touch Burnley, so we'll move that on. 2-0 Man City for that one. Norwich, Brighton. This one's a difficult one in the sense that I expect Brighton to win. I think Norwich surely have got to put in a performance eventually. When are they going to pick up any real points in the Premier League? You think it has to be sometime? Could this be the game? I don't see it, but I think they'll make a good account for themselves. I'm going to go with a 1-0 Brighton win here, and maybe Norwich sort of a bit heartbroken by the end of it. Neil Maupay, definitely stick with him if you got any Brighton players. Like I think Solly March is always a good option because Solly March is always really cheap. If we look at Brighton here, so you look here, this is March. You probably can't see this from here if I just move myself a little bit more, but yeah, he's a 5.3, and yeah, if we look at the way he's played in the last few games, bit in and out of the team actually, these are the kind of things you got to keep an eye on actually in the minutes played early on, and has just kind of faded in and out of the team. Now there's a player for Brighton that very much we think could be a good shout going forward, and it's this guy, Mark Cucurella. Every time I've watched Cucurella so far, he's been electric, and at a 5, and he's just starting to rack up the points because he's broken into the team. This could be a shout here. Veltman is back fit as well. This is another point of emphasis. Veltman back fit, 90 minutes over these game weeks here. He's back in. He was the cheap option that I went with early on. I thought his injury wouldn't last that long, and he was cheap at a 4.4. Duffy still playing. So Veltman and Duffy and obviously Dunk are very much the selection here in the sort of back three that they go for. As you can see, yeah, they've played all those games. So like I mentioned, Duffy has not fallen out of the team. So yeah, definitely Cucurella is the option I'd go for Brighton in this game. Get him in your team. You'll thank me later. Okay, back to the fixture list. Southampton versus Leeds. Like I mentioned about Leeds' fixture list, they've got a great run in now. Get your Rafinha in. I expect Bamford will be back fit soon, I'd imagine. We'll just quickly take a look at Leeds. What's Bamford looking like at the moment? Ankle injury, unknown return date. Interesting. His value surely dip at some point. Maybe it's worth thinking about him later on. But definitely, yeah, just Rafinha or Dallas at the moment in this Leeds fixture list. I think at this stage there's no need to go with anyone else really. Rafinha or Dallas if you're going to pick some Leeds players there. And then yeah, Southampton, Armstrong I think obviously struggling at the moment. They're struggling to create chances. I mentioned it's Ward-Prowse and nothing with Southampton. Maybe their fullbacks are some options. But yeah, Ward-Prowse takes the penalties, takes the free kicks. They very much just stay in games, chip in and around the team. You're not going to find where the points are coming from, I'm afraid, with Southampton. So it's very much Ward-Prowse and nothing in my book for that. Then yeah, Brentford versus Chelsea. Brentford, I would say, have had obviously an electric start to the season. Mentioned about how they fit very well into the Premier League in terms of the ability to sort of speed up the game, slow it down, be physical, play a bit on the deck. I think they've got a really good combination across the team, so they're always in games. So it's very much worth having a player from Brentford, especially on your bench somewhere, and then just dipping them in at the right time because yeah, they're an effective unit. I think they'll do well against Chelsea. I wasn't impressed with Chelsea against City. I thought they really weren't impressive in that game, and then maybe just because City just blew them away. But you know, Lukaku's been struggling. I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I said get Lukaku at your team because I'm sticking with him during this easy fixture list. But I mean, if you look at Chelsea, here, I mean, this fixture list is crazy. Now, this is the thing about. I think because Chilwell got a bit of England game time, surely Alonso's going to go back in, and I bloody hope so, because I made that mistake of not having him in my team long enough, and I addressed that a couple of weeks ago, and he played one and then didn't play the other. Chilwell played, so I very much. I mean, look at his fixture list; it's absolute gold mine, and surely Lukaku has got to get back to scoring ways. 75% chance of playing in this game, but I mean, if you look at his fixtures here, look, not drawn 3 blanks in a row, due a goal, easy run of fixtures. We know one of the things about Lukaku we always mentions, he's a bit of a flat track bully type of. That's a bit of a cricket terminology, really, isn't it? But the whole idea that like he's like this player that seems to just be amazing against the minnows and then sort of struggle more in the big games. I do think, you know, that may not be the case anymore, but he's still absolutely dominant against lower teams, and this run of fixture list is good. So that's what I'm talking about, is that he's struggled now, but this is the time I think that Lukaku will hit form again. So Brentford, I mean, like, Ivan Toney's obviously the player, and Buno as well. Now, the question is about their fixture list running, but yeah, certainly in this game I think they'll compete well. So if I'm going to pick a result in this, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I think there'll be goals in this. So if you've got a Brentford attacker, don't be afraid to leave him in your team. I think there's a chance that they might do something in this game. And then, yeah, Everton West Ham. This one, I mean, Everton were electric at Old Trafford. Absolutely electric. I mean, there were moments where I just thought they seemed to be tactically just, you know, managing the game. Like, they manage games terrifically well. And I thought West Ham were actually pretty good at this as well earlier on. But they have had some indifferent performances recently. But yeah, it's very much a game for not really worrying about it too much. If you've got one of those sets of players, whether it's like a Ben Rama or a Bowen, a Damari Gray or a Townsend, like I mentioned about Townsend, Everton are at home, they played well against United, they'll be confident. Maybe lean Everton's way in this game. So my prediction for this one would be a 2-1 Everton win. They continue to really hit their stride and aim for the European positions. West Ham, I think they'll be a bit up and down all season, in my opinion. I think they'll probably end up in kind of like sort of about 9th when it's all said and done. So I would just lean a 2-1 Everton win. So yeah, if you've got Everton and West Ham players, don't worry about it. They'll probably do well, but I don't expect a clean sheet in this game. Then Newcastle versus Spurs to finish. Oh, not to finish. We've got Arsenal Crystal Palace. Newcastle versus Spurs. I very much think that Sam Maximan could tear it up in this game. We know he's Newcastle's go-to player. They're going to seek him out all the time when they're on the run. A bit like when Jack Grealish is at Aston Villa. It's going to go to Sam Maximan every single time. He's going to make things happen. Spurs, again, good start to the season. Now going for a bit of a sort of dodgy spell. I don't see that changing. For me, I could see Sam Maximan or Son really, really firing here. So I think definitely consider having one of them in your team for this game. I think this one could really go either way, to the point where I'm struggling to make a prediction. I mean, I'm going to go for this one. I'm going to go 3-2 Spurs. Lots of goals, and yeah, like I say, Sam Maximan maybe to get a goal. Son easily goal and assist. So definitely think about getting one of those two players in your team, because it's a pretty good fixture for that. And then finally, Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. Arsenal are doing terrifically well. If we just look at their fixture running, I mentioned about getting Arsenal players in last week, based on the fact that they had this good running. Yeah, so I mean, if we just look at a random player, let's just go on Tierney here. Yeah, look at these fixtures here: Crystal Palace, Villa at home. A bit of a poor Leicester recently. I mean, Leicester might have kicked into gear by this point, I would imagine, by game week 10. And then Watford, they seem to have a formation now that they understand under Mikel Arteta. So yeah, definitely. I mean, like I mentioned before, Smith Rowe's the pick. I very much think the number 10, and obviously we know how dynamic Saka is on that right hand side, cutting in on his left. But I just think the number 10 position seems to be very effective in this formation. So Ødegaard as well, but Ødegaard very much, like I say, is the guy that passes to the person that then plays the assist, and Smith Rowe I very, very much think is going to be the assist guy, or the guy actually made those late runs, a bit like Conor Gallagher, to get the goal. So get them in your team. I think now's the time. Get a couple of Arsenal players in your team. Why not? That's it really. So my prediction for this Monday fixture against Crystal Palace, I'm going to go an Arsenal win, and it's going to be 2-1 to Arsenal. So that'll do it. So that's my predictions, sort of fantasy suggestions today. If you can take a look at my team, for example, just before we finished, I had a bit of a laugh. Made 4 transfers to this team. Got my City players in. Maybe went Grealish too early. Maybe should have gone Foden here. But both 7.98. Good time to get them in. They should all start through those games. Walker, like I said, at a 5.5. I bit the bullet on Townsend. I think he's playing electrically well, very, very cheap. And then obviously got the Leeds players, got an easy run in, and the 2 Chelsea players there for an easy run in as well. So I'm really sort of picking on the runs, and I probably won't change my team now for certainly the next game week, I'd imagine, unless for injuries. That'll do it. Thanks a lot for listening. I hope that gave you some ideas to sort your team out tomorrow. Please like, share, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.